What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Friday, May 3rd, 2024. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host Phil for episode 281. Jam-packed show today. We announce our winner of the Replica Championship Buffalo Bandits ring. We had plenty of contestants enter, and one lucky contestant is walking away with a brand new spanking unboxed championship replica ring. We got the Buffalo Sabres third annual BSC award nominations. Actually, not nominations, award announcements. That's why I'm wearing my fancy little bow tie and button-down shirt. And then our huge preview for the semifinals matchup for the third straight year, Buffalo versus Toronto. Phil, how are you doing on this wonderful Friday?
Pretty good. The weather has been nice, and
beautiful.
If you're listening to this on Friday, as you should, I believe it's supposed to be 80, something like that.
Yep.
That is, It's pushing my limit. I feel like you and I are pretty even on our feelings on the weather, as far as the high temperature range. I feel like 80 is probably going to be okay with it, still being spring-ish, but it's pushing it. It's pushing it. Anything mid-80s is definitely the highest I would be willing to go. Anything above that, just knock it off. But I don't want to already complain about the warm weather because we're finally just getting to it. So I am pretty excited about the nice weather. It's been nice to be, especially outside at night and the early morning where it's still cool, but not like it was last week when there was literally frost on the cars and it was 30 degrees when you woke up and 60 by the time you left. It's actually been staying warm outside. So going outside pretty late at night to check on something or just going outside in general feels great. And it's great to have some nice weather finally.
Yeah, I'm the type of person that if you can keep the temperature between 50 and like 75 and no rain with a slight breeze, it'd be perfect. Like there would be no complaints out of me. I would be a much happier person. Not saying I'm not super happy now, but I would just be a much happier person being able to wake up each day knowing exactly what the weather's going to be like. But I think that's, if I were to,
you want to live in a cave? Is that
maybe that does sound delightful, but especially because there would be less people around. But if I was granted 3 wishes from a genie, one of my wishes would be that it would be, and there would be no side effects to the environment and the animals and all this kind of stuff.
Everyone
because I understand all that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to do the butterfly effect here. I don't even know if that's the correct terminology for this, but I would wish for 72, always sunny with a slight breeze every single day, 365 days. And then the leap year, you can give me rain. And then that'll be it. Like one rainy day every 4 years, and I'll be a happy boy.
I do like the rainy days.
I don't.
I enjoy, especially like,
you don't have this. I think the right reason that you're okay with it, you don't have dogs. You have cats, and cats are indoors, which yours are indoors, outdoors sometimes. But you don't have the animals that you have to wipe off their feet every time they come in the springtime. But I will say the spring has been better.
I do feel like I get to thoroughly enjoy rainy days a lot more than you do.
100%.
Like I can just sit inside, like have the bay window open and just watch the rain. I mean, those are nice days. Have the front door open with the screen and listen to it. I think those are nice, but I don't have to deal with a dog going outside and getting soaked. The cat that is the more outdoor cat, they're both a little bit outdoors, but the one is obsessed with outdoors. The other one's a little skittish, but the obsessed one, it was raining. It was sprinkling the other day, and I didn't really want to go outside, but he really wanted to go outside, and he's not one who's going to get away anytime soon, so I kept a loose eye on him, but I kept running back inside. But he was outside in the rain for a while, and he just did like a full lap around the backyard and was strolling up and down the driveway having a blast. And I was like, all right, well, didn't know you were going to not mind the rain, but he came in and he was all wet, and I was like, whatever makes you happy, bud.
Well, what makes me happy, sort of, is a quick reminder that Monday's show will not air on Monday. It will air on Tuesday due to the Bandits Sunday late game. We're not coming home. We said it in the last show to kind of prep everybody for this, but we're not coming home right after being in Bandit Land, right after going to the casino for a free money slot play and recording a show. It's just not happening. We will record on Monday and it will air on Tuesday. So just be alert. If you see us, or if you don't see us on Monday, that's why it'll be out on Tuesday. So remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article dropped on Tuesday. Mine dropped on Thursday. And somehow I tried to clear things up, and people are still mad I didn't give game 3, even though, we'll talk about it later, but I had the 2 games split, and they're like, where's game 3? How can you split it? Where's game 3? It's called content, guys. There's an article that goes with these graphics. If I give you game 3, what am I going to do next week? Calm down. It'll be there next week. And look for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. Phil, are you ready to get fancy dancy?
Yeah, I know you have, you got more dressed up than I did. I did quickly swap outfits before we started. I was going to go with my Bandits fake tux, but I went with a Nightmare Before Christmas fancy fake tux suit shirt that kind of looks like Jack's suit, and it's because this was a very scary season for the Buffalo Sabres, and this is going to be some scary awards that we have to give out, and the nominations they were tough. It was tough. It was a tough year for Sabres fans again.
And we will try to go through these decently quick because I know it's been weeks since then, but we were trying to figure out when we could do this and still be able to talk about the Buffalo Bandits in the playoffs as much as we can. So we will try to fly through these a bit. I did get a little bit more dressed up, not as much as I did for the Buffalo Bills because the Buffalo Sabres do not deserve this. So again, they finished 39, 37, and 6 for 84 points. Massive regression this year from many, many players, but we will go through the nominations, and the award winners will be crowned. Sorry, there's a motorcycle passing my house right now. But Phil, I do have the envelopes this year. There are fancy envelopes.
Producer
there are
Pat
7
got
envelopes.
You to them in time?
Pat did get them to me in time.
Good.
And they're labeled nicely, so hopefully I don't screw these up. So here we go. The first award was called the BSC MVP Award. And the nominees were Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, Rasmus Dahlin, Alex Tuck, and JJ Peterka. Last year's winner was Tage Thompson. This year's award winner, I think it was pretty obvious, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Phil, what's your reaction to our number 1 goalie now being the BSC MVP for the Buffalo Sabres this year?
I do love it for a lot of reasons. It was great to see him have a fully healthy year. This is something that we've been looking for multiple years now. He's had a lot of early career injuries, so to see him not only healthy the whole year, but also have the load kind of thrown at him in the second half of the year when they really truly let him be a, one goalie by himself for the most part, and still was able to hold up health-wise, and the talent really shone through throughout the entire second half of the season when he really just was pretty much a top goalie in the entire league. Looked fantastic. The only thing that worries me a little bit is that we had Tage Thompson last year, and we know how he did this year. So hopefully this is not some kind of curse, and he will come back looking just as good as he did next year. But overall, absolutely deserved it. He was definitely the rising star on this team. And again, just to see a lot of his numbers through the second half of the year. And it's one thing to be a good goalie, and it's another thing to be a great goalie. And if you take away the 2 bad games he had where the team also just kind of gave up in front of him, I think his stats throughout the entire season end up looking a lot better. I think they started to come back to earth a little bit with those 2 rough games toward the back half of the season, but he still finished really strong and had an absolutely incredible season, one that neither you or I would assume anybody really predicted coming.
Yeah, the one disadvantage of having a podcast like this is everything you say has been recorded. It's not like I go back and edit and take out things that I messed up. It's still there. So me going on this show, me going on Talking Buffalo, saying, hey, just ship Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen out for whatever you can get for him, because if he's going to turn into a number one goalie, you can do it elsewhere. Man, was I dead wrong. He was the clear and obvious MVP for this team. He was one of the only ones that truly didn't get hurt. I know there were a few other ones that played the whole season, but if it wasn't for him, the Buffalo Sabres wouldn't have finished with 84 points. He was the clear and obvious decision and choice for me. And we might go over his real goalie numbers later on in the show, but I thought clear and obvious for the MVP for the Buffalo Sabres, it was UPL by pretty much a landslide. I know JJ Peterka had a phenomenal year, and Rasmus Dahlin, but I thought everybody else pretty much regressed, and UPL just shined through. So congratulations to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Move on from that. I think exactly what you just said is just a huge point of why he got it. Like, the Sabres would not have been where they were by any means if they did not have him. Like, without him, this team looks under 500 and much, much worse. So that is a true MVP that can pretty much just lead the team to scraping and crawling to a couple of victories when he could get them for them.
Ukko, your trophy is in the mail. Phil, our next award, Mr. D for the top defenseman. Our nominees this year were Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power, Henri Jokiharju, and Bo Byram. Last year's award winner was one Rasmus Dahlin. This year's award goes to Rasmus Dahlin. Phil, I feel like this one was a little bit closer than the MVP, but I thought just based on numbers, based on his leadership, based on what he provided for this team, I thought Rasmus Dahlin once again was the leader in the clubhouse going in, and he came out on top.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you mentioned leader, I was going to talk about it, and then you said it again, and I think that's pretty much why he gets this. I mean, yes, the stats and how incredible of a defender he is really goes with this. A few other players looked really good. Like you mentioned, Power, Jokiharju. Byram wasn't there very long, but we didn't have a lot of nominee options, but he did also look good when he did come over. But Dahlin's leadership is the biggest part of this whole thing, because even when it was at the end of the season and other players looked like at times they just didn't care, gave up, weren't really trying, you could tell even if the game was 7-1, 7-2, when that seventh goal went in, he was still getting just as upset as if it was the first goal or an overtime goal that he was giving up. I mean, anytime that something on the ice kind of happened and it was either his fault or, the team just wasn't performing very well, you could see the anger and frustration on his face, which from a team that supposedly, got caught up in the outside noise and sometimes admitted that they weren't trying hard enough in a must-win playoff type game. I think he was a player that throughout the entire season really actually tried every single game, looked really good, gave it his all, and you could tell on the ice that he was just doing whatever he could to try to help this team win, even if the team didn't always follow his lead, but he did a good job kind of leading by example.
Yeah, I mean, if you really even look at just the numbers alone, he's tied for the lead, or the team in points. He led the team in assists. He was pretty close on goals. His first defenseman to score 20 goals for the Buffalo Sabres since, I think, Phil Housley. I am more interested to see where his game can go with Lindy Ruff's tutelage. And I know that Lindy Ruff, in his time at the Buffalo Sabres, has always been known for the young forward group to get them going, like the Thomas Vanek, the Jason Pominvilles, the Derek Roys. Danny Briere came out of his shell when he was here with Lindy Ruff. So I'm more interested to see what Lindy Ruff's able to do with a talent like Rasmus Dahlin, with a talent like Owen Power, but I know this is more Dahlin's topic here. I know in New Jersey he had some star power on the defensive core, but when Lindy Ruff was on WGR on Tuesday, he was talking about how he spoke with Rasmus Dahlin for close to over an hour in the first phone call, and they were just going back and forth on what the team needs and so on and so forth. And I know Rasmus Dahlin was one of the leaders in the clubhouse defending Granato, but I think he is really going to like Lindy's approach, and I'm very interested to see what that tandem can do. So Phil, should we send Dahlin another trophy and see if he's got any room on his mantle for both of them?
I doubt he does. If we're going to be, I mean, he's got so many trophies in general, but now it's his second BSC, and I mean, he's a tough one to beat. So I'm excited to see if anyone next year can upstage him because he makes it very difficult to to beat as a top defenseman.
Rasmus, your award is in the mail. Our next award here, the Bounce Ball. That is bounce back season. Our nominees were JJ Peterka, UPL, Jordan Greenway, and Henry Jokiharju. Phil, last year's award winner was Casey Middlestad. If that trend continues, this player will be traded next year. The award goes to, and I just bumped my mic, so I apologize for that, Henry Jokiharju, Phil's boy. He was another one that I was very down on going into this year. So if I was down on you this year, you had a pretty stinking good season.
Yeah, first off, we might have to switch this name to like the Yo-Yo. I like that idea.
I do like that.
Also, Middlestat just bounced his way all the
Making
way
notes.
off the team, so good for him. He bounced so far back, he bounced to Colorado. But Jokiharju, yeah, he had a really, really big comeback season. I know last year I was pretty high on him, but I understood that he struggled a lot last year, and I was really hoping that he would just kind of take over this year and really just step up. And I didn't know if I thought he could. I thought he would. I didn't know if he really fit the mold of this team all that well, but to see the way he did bounce back this year was huge. I have no idea about their plans for him, if they see him as a future potential player on this team or what his contract status is going to look like. But I do think he's earned another contract on this team. I do think he played really well in his bounce back year. I mean, he was not good last year, and he was questionable. Like you mentioned, you were pretty low on him. He was another player, I believe, that you wanted just kind of shipped out in general, which is fair with the way he played. He was very hot and cold. He had a couple good games and a couple really bad games last year, and this year he was much more consistent, and I think he was a pretty solid staple on this defense. And I think the defense as a whole was pretty good this year. Definitely stepped up from the year before, and the numbers plus UPL kind of show it. But I thought he was a really good bounce back player this season.
And one of the few righties still on this team with Connor Clifton.
Yeah, right.
So, he's going to be an RFA. It will be interesting to see if he is the type of player, because, again, you can't pay everybody, but I don't think he's going to command a huge amount of money. But I did really, really like his play this year. I thought he was definitely a bounce back, or I already put it in our doc. I don't know if you see it, but the new name of this one next year is the Yo-Yo. I absolutely love that. But I think after what we saw of him last year and going into this year, my opinion of him has drastically changed. So if the team wants to bring him back as a bottom three, like a third pairing defenseman,
Yep.
I think that's his role perfectly. I think it hurt him last year having to play with Rasmus Dahlin so much and with Owen Power so much, because he was getting too many minutes. If he's sitting between 16 and 18 minutes a game, I think that's a sweet spot for him, and he's not going against other teams' top performers and playing above where he is capable of doing. And again, that's no shot at him, but you have other defensemen on this team that can play that role. So I think having him where he's going to be as a third pairing defenseman, I don't think you can get much better than that. And then if you need to with injuries or whatever it will be, and you can push him up to the second pairing, I still think that's good, because I don't think he will be playing the 20 to 22 minutes that he was last year. So I think this is the perfect spot for him as the bounce ball future Yo-Yo award winner. So Henry, your award is in the mail. We got the next one here. You got it, kid. I'm still adjusting to this camera. I'm not a weather person. This one goes to the top rookie. The award, or the nominees, are Ryan Johnson, Zach Benson, Lucas Ruzek, and Yuri Kulik. Last year's award winner, Jack Quinn. So with this trend, you're bound to get hurt in the offseason skating around the ice. Let's hope that's not true. The award goes to, pretty clear and obvious once again, Zach Benson. For the limited amount of nominees we have, Phil, it's pretty easy to pick the winners. I did really like Ryan Johnson's game, but I think with an 18-year-old who was one of the very few players that was not afraid to stand in front of the net and take the punishment, and was not afraid to get in the corners and stand up for himself. Every time he got knocked down, he got right back up. Zach Benson, clear and obvious, rookie of the year for this Buffalo Sabres team.
Yeah, I thought Ryan Johnson was really good. He's another one that might make the team next year. Another one that we don't really know what the team's future plans are for him. I mean, he's on the team. He's not going anywhere, but hopefully he's a full-time starter next year. Their defense is very, very weird looking, so we'll see what they end up shaking out and doing. But I did think he played really well when he had the opportunity. But Zach Benson, to be able to make the team over some of the people that he made the team over and be able to stick around, and not just stick around as an 18-year-old. Like, once he was on the team, he was on the team. There's nowhere else he could go due to me personally, outdated and ridiculous NHL rules, but that's a whole different thing. But for him to be able to step up the way he did as an 18-year-old, like, nothing about his game jumped out at you. Like 30 points, you're like, okay, that's not really that exciting for a rookie, but I mean, it's still a decent season to have 30 points. It's not a bad year, but for an 18-year-old kid who's just trying to make a name for himself, like you said, like, he was doing all the small things that you can kind of see in his game that will eventually progress, like standing in front of the net, taking those punishments, going into the boards, playing hard. And then you saw the talent and skills that he had that will develop as he gets a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and gets used to the speed of the NHL. Like, his raw talent is there, his skills are there. You saw flashes of it, but to be able to play, mature, like the maturity level of him, and it's something we talked about right away in preseason and even in the early going of the games. Like, he does not look outmatched in the NHL. He doesn't look uncomfortable. He doesn't look skittish. Like, he looked very calm, very poised, like he absolutely belonged. And to be able to do that as an 18-year-old rookie is really impressive. And I'm very excited to see where his career goes. And honestly, it's a little bit of a shame because I think we're going to have to wait a few years, which is natural. It's nothing to do with Zach Benson, but I think his breakout's still a few years away with him being so young and still learning the game. So, I mean, 18, maybe his big breakout will be, 20, 21, 22, but still excited to see his game grow. And I think he's someone who will grow every single year for at least a few years now before really, hopefully, establishing himself as a really top player on the team.
So, Zach Benson, your award is in the mail. Phil, before we dive through these last three awards, which we'll fly through to get into this Buffalo Bandits preview, Phil, let's go over our first sponsor, Tap That Tap Room.
Tap That Tap Room is at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. They are Buffalo's first women-owned self-pour bar. They feature 30 consistently rotating taps of a variety of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
And not only do they have those, they have constantly something going on at the brewery there. Friday, Buffalo Bandits watch party at 7:30. There will be giveaways. What better way to watch the Buffalo Bandits than with sound on all the TVs with a bunch of other Bandits fans watching Buffalo versus Toronto with the finals appearance on the line in Game 1. Saturday, Kentucky Derby with the nice weather. If you want to see everybody in those stupid-looking hats on TV, go to this party. There will be live music at 7 p.m. with Hell Yeah. Phil, I don't know if you were a big Kentucky Derby fan, but I always watched it growing up. I haven't watched it in years, but there are so many stupid hats at the Kentucky Derby. It's unbelievable.
Also, the tickets to go to the Tap That Tap Room are much more inexpensive because it's free to walk into Tap That Tap Room, and the Kentucky Derby, if I remember correctly, is a wildly expensive event.
Yeah, a little pricey, but what is not pricey is Tap That Tap Room. So check out their Facebook page and at tapthattaproom.com for all their posted events and what's on tap and what is on deck. Phil, I'm blanking. I'm sorry. I'm blanking, but I was kind of more just thinking about what is actually on tap and, if I show up later on today to watch the Bandits game, what I will be partaking in.
I think the silly hats really just threw you off.
It did a little. I'm thinking of all the stupid feathers and the giant hats, and I hope it's a really windy Kentucky, have a really windy day, please. So let's go over our next award here. Crease Captain, this goes to the top goalie. Nominees, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, Eric Comrie, Devin Levi. At least we didn't have 6 goalies this year. Last year's winner was Devin Levi. This year's winner, pretty obvious, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I know we already talked about him a little bit, but congratulations, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, top goalie. Thought this one was clear and obvious as well.
Yeah, I'm happy like it's weird for us, and I think it really just kind of explains the goalie situation in Buffalo and how it's been miserable for years and years and years and years. But
Long time.
last year, you gave it to we gave it to a rookie who didn't really play that many games. The games he did play in were meaningful, which was really exciting. Unlike this year, and he did have a lot of poise and really helped them try to get into the playoffs last year. So I think Levi earned it last year for sure. But just interesting to see that like that's who we awarded to last year. Like that was the state of the goaltending situation. And then headed into this year, didn't really know what it would end up being. And I'm really happy. And I know you were also really happy that they eventually finally sent Levi down to get some development, go play down in the AHL, actually develop as a goalie as all other goalies who have ever been in the NHL do. And when he did have to return to the team every once in a while to relieve UPL, he did look much, much better. And it looks like his development and growth is really coming along in the AHL. So again, kind of just weird that we gave it to Levi and then he was, thrust back to the AHL, but we're actually really excited to see that for his personal development and also really excited to see UPL step up the way he did. So great job, UPL, really stepping up. And then Levi's development, I think, also went really well this year when they finally gave him a chance to develop and got him out of the NHL finally and not having 3 active goalies on the roster. I don't know what they were doing, but congratulations to UPL and Levi. Your development is doing great. Comrie, we will see you never.
Yeah, UPL, 54 games played, 27 wins. I thought he was, and I've already went over it, he was absolutely phenomenal, but I'm very interested to see what he does next year going in as the 1A goaltender. Last year, remember, he was not going to be in the mix. It was Devin Levi and Eric Comrie's crease, and UPL did not perform well in the preseason. It was Levi's and Comrie's net, and UPL was the third man out. They were not going to go with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. He was on the outs, and I mean, he didn't really do anything in his previous history to prove that he could be the guy, and he took that crease and just took it over. So I'm very interested to see what he is next year, if he can repeat what he did this year, because if he can, you have a stud in net in the making. So UPL, your second trophy is in the mail. They will be packaged together because who's got the money to pay for 2 different kind of stamps? Congratulations. Our next award here, favorite moment. It's everybody's favorite time, a stinky team for a favorite moment. The nominees: win over New York, 4-0 right before the Detroit game. You know how that one went. 93 win over Toronto after losing 9-4 the game before, which Phil was in attendance for. And then the 7-0 win versus the LA Kings. And then finally, the season being over. Last year's winner was the Game 79 shootout winner versus the Rangers to keep them alive. Phil, if anybody watched all 82 games like me, you know what the award goes to, and it is the season being over. Thank God, because if you listen to this show as well, you knew how over this season we were when they lost to Detroit that one game, Phil. I can't believe that we went from a team that we were so hopeful and so excited to see back in the playoffs, and it was dead and gone in November when they just stunk and they just couldn't get winning streaks going. This was, and WGR has been very good on it. They were the most mid team that I have ever seen in the history of sports. They never lost too many in a row, but they never won enough in a row. And their plus minus with goal differential was like 2. It's just disgusting. You couldn't have gotten a more mid-level team if you tried to type it out on a typewriter.
Yeah, again, it just reminds me so much of the old-timey Bills, where they were just never good enough to make playoffs, but just mediocre and won some games, which was great, but not good enough to make playoffs and not good enough to get a good draft position. They were just kind of stuck in the middle, and that's where the Sabres were this year, just right in the middle. We complained about it all year long. You have to win more than 2 games in a row, or 3 games, twice all year, I believe it ended up being. I don't even know if they got to 4 or 5. That's not
3 was the max.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So that's not how you make playoffs. And even though they were somehow still close, it's because of what you also said. They didn't really have any massive glaring losing streaks, but it's still just, I don't know. It was such a frustrating season. Again, there was so much hope coming off of last year, which makes this season look so much worse. Like if last year they finished terrible, and we'll say they finished with 75 points last year or whatever, 80 points last year, and this team came out and did this, it would have been slightly okay. But like, okay, they didn't really go backwards, they didn't really go forwards, and most of the forwards took a huge step backwards, but it still would have been okay, I guess. You missed playoffs again, but you didn't take a huge step back. But to be as close as they were last year, to have a top 5 offense last year, to finally get the goaltending you needed this year, to get the defense you needed this year, and just have it fall apart and not be able to win games in a row, it was just really disheartening, and just could not wait when they were eliminated pretty early. Like you mentioned, even as they were close, they really never got that close to making playoffs. So it was happy and exciting to be over, but we were expecting them to run it back, and really excited to see them not run it back with Granato again in the same team. We'll see what they do in the offseason with the draft and with free agency, but there's a whole summer for that. But either way, good to see a new head coach, and hopefully this team is going to go upwards and in the right direction. We'll see. By this season, glad it's over with, and we can finally put it behind us.
I'm keeping the trophy. You guys can't have it.
Yeah.
It's a badge of honor. We're gonna
I don't know
bestow
if you want
here.
that trophy though.
I do. That means the season's over and we withstood 82 games.
Fair.
We did it. That's a participation trophy right there. Congratulations to us. We got through it.
That's all.
Next award and
did.
next and final award here. Give me more. Give me more. Next, this one is something or someone we need more from next year, or we just want to see more of. It's kind of an interpretation of however we took it. The nominees are Jack Quinn, Bo Byram, Devin Levi, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, Tage Thompson, and the team in general. Last year's award winner was Jordan Greenway. I thought we did see more from him. This year's winner, the whole team, baby. The whole team needs to perform better. There are, two exceptions, UPL and JJ Peterka, that really shined. And even if you want to toss in Jack Quinn there, because he was playing really well in the games he actually performed. Dahling had a regression season as well.
But not as bad as the others.
Not as bad as the others, but you're a defenseman. The whole team, pretty much. It's if you do not make playoffs next year, and you do not, if you try to run it back and you bring guys like Zemgus Girgensons back, and you bring back a guy like Tyson Jost, if you do that again and you run it back with similar players again, everybody needs to be fired in that front office, and it would be ridiculous. We hated here on this show. We hated the Oposo re-signing. We hated the Zemgus Girgensson re-signing. We thought, just bring back one of them. You brought back two of them, and guess what? There still wasn't good leadership in the room. So I hated all the moves last year that they re-signed the same guys. I thought they needed to change up the bottom six, and hopefully this year they do, but we need more from the whole team as a whole.
Yeah, and please do not sign any veteran players to be leaders that have Stanley Cup experience. I don't care anymore. I don't want some old player who's not going to give me solid quality ice minutes because he's possibly a good example in the locker room, because that did absolutely nothing for the team this year. They had supposed good leadership, and this really isn't a knock on Oposo. He was a good leader and teammate, but he wasn't the leader that they needed on this team. He's not someone who's going to get overly angry at them, and that seems to be what they need. Eric Johnson, I mean, great. You weren't very good for the team. You got him a good draft pick somehow. I don't really understand that trade still, but congrats to the Sabres for that. But again, just it's not a team that needs veteran players in their twilight years just to give them a voice in the locker room. Give me an established player who also wants to win and can actually, give some effort, some energy, some life, some fight, something of that nature to this team, and let them be the leader. I mean, look at Bo Byram and what he brought just for a few minutes there of just speed, energy, and just what that did to the team. You don't necessarily need to have a voice. I need an on-ice leader that's going to do a much better job. The whole team needs to be better. The only thing we didn't put in here, which is equivalent to the team, the power play, my goodness, also needs to give them more next year. Terrible this year, but the team all needs to step up. Hopefully the offseason, we keep talking about it because I think we're I don't want to say excited, but they have the potential to do some things. Will they do them or not? I don't know. But they have all the opportunities to trade or sign players with the cap space and prospects that they have in just an abundance of both. So hopefully they do something, but long off season, we'll see. Either way, like you said, make playoffs or you're all fired.
Well, Buffalo Sabres, your championship award is in the mail. Not championship. Haha, gotcha. Give me more award is in the mail. That concludes the Buffalo Sabres third annual BSC Awards. Hopefully next year we will be in better spirits. That means I'm taking off this bow tie here, Phil, because it's choking my neck, and the Buffalo Sabres do not deserve any more of my attention this year. Bow tie drop.
It feels like
Phil,
you're choking when you're trying to watch them, though. You know,
it does. It does feel like I'm joking
constant
here. I'm
pain.
unbuttoning this top button too because I was dying for this half an hour. I was like, come on, let's speed this up. Okay, Phil, I think it's time to award the winner of the Replica Championship Buffalo Bandits Ring Giveaway. What do you think?
I think we can do it right before we kick off some intense Bandits conversation.
So what I did for everybody at home is I went onto a website called Wheel of Names, and then I just typed in everybody's name, and if you tag somebody and got that extra entry, I gave you a second name in there as well. Same name, but your name was just in there second 2 times. So it's not like I gave you a different name. You know what I mean? I'm kind of botching this whole thing, but I'm going to play it on the TV behind me. Don't know if it's going to be able to play very well here, but the wheel is currently spinning behind my head. If it's not big enough, as soon as it's spinning really nice, and then it gives a little bit of confetti when the award is announced. And when the name's up there, I will announce it here. Here it comes. Great for audio. Grace Dobler, congratulations. We will be in contact with you to get you this beautiful unboxed replica ring that we had an extra of because my wife Brooke didn't want it. Congratulations. And thank you to everyone who entered this contest. It was an absolute fun thing to do, not only to generate more interest in this show, maybe some people that haven't heard it, that want more Bandits content, that was also for it. But in the future, we will be doing more giveaways, so stay tuned for that. But again, Grace Dobler, we will be in contact, but congratulations. You are the winner of the replica ring.
You should be a play-by-play announcer for the Wheel of Fortune, and just
I should not.
The wheel is spinning very nicely right now. There it goes. And
so colorful.
When it stops, nobody knows, but there will be some confetti when it stops.
It was you doubted my abilities to do this kind of a giveaway, Phil. How do you think I did?
You did a good job.
Thank you.
And we didn't need to obviously use the coin flip that we have also tried to describe to our audio listeners while we're just watching a video in front of us live. The description just doesn't go all that well when you try to plan these things out to the audio, but I think you did a good job. And congratulations.
If you want to see the actual video, go to YouTube. There you go. Easy fix. So let's dive into our Buffalo Bandits preview here. Game 1 is in Hamilton, Friday, 7:30. Game 2 is in Banditland at 5:30. Remember, they adjusted it to make the time to see the end of the San Diego Albany Game 2 game. So there's that. It's moved to 5:30 instead of 5. History, though, looking at round 1, Toronto won 9-6. Rochester, it was 5-1. After the first quarter, 4 in the first 4 minutes for Toronto. Rogers went 2-3-5. Boucher 2-1-3. Small 1-2-3. Craig 1-1-2. Schreiber 2-1-3. Matthews 1-3-4. Rose absolutely phenomenal. 51 saves on 57 attempts. Just a absolute whipping of the Rochester Nighthawks, and that's kind of what you would expect from a number 1 seed. But Phil, if you could believe it, since we started this show, this is the 12th and 13th meeting that these two teams are going to see each other in the last 3 years. Bandits are 8-3 in those meetings and 4-1 in the playoffs. Buffalo, 2-0 this year. Buffalo won 16-14 in the first meeting. Buffalo scored 7 straight in the fourth quarter. Then flash forward to March. You're in Bandit land. You win 14-12, 6 in the fourth after being down 2 entering the fourth. This team, Buffalo Bandits that is, somehow have Toronto's number. And it's not just that, you're winning squeakers or you're winning low scoring games. In those 12 games, Buffalo has a goals for average of 12.25 and a goal against 10.75. So I don't know what it is about these two teams, but Buffalo has the edge in it, and they're able to put the ball past the Triple Crown winner this year in Nick Rose and the eventual goaltender of the year when that is finally announced. But Buffalo just seems to have Toronto's number, not just this year, but in the last 3 years combined.
Yeah, I mean, the Nick Rose thing I still don't get. It's incredible how great of a goalie he is, and then when the Bandits play him, he doesn't have it. I don't know what it is that has their number, and honestly, it might be similar to how Georgia was this year. I mean, that could be a battle for years to come now between the Bandits and Dobson and just Georgia in general, how they were able to twice this season really shut down the Bandits offense. And that might be the similar way it is with Toronto and Buffalo, where Buffalo just seems to know how to score against Nick Rose, and they continue to do it over and over and over. And he really just does not have an answer for them. And every single time they play Toronto, you and I are very scared because Toronto is a very solid, complete team, and these teams do not like each other. And you're just always kind of expecting a low scoring, intense battle where Nick Rose kind of steps up and then it just doesn't really materialize. And it's just been a weird kind of situation where I don't really know what it is about the Bandits offense or Nick Rose, but when they play each other, he just seems to not be the incredible goaltender that we know he can be. And I mean, his stats back it up this entire season, except when he plays Buffalo. And it's a weird thing, and I'm scared that at some point, you assume, but the law of averages and whatnot, that the Bandits will lose to Toronto eventually. But at the same time, the Patriots whip the Bills for like a decade. So maybe not. Maybe we'll just keep rolling. And I mean, I hope it does, because the Bandits need to keep winning.
Yeah, the only thing I'll really take of note here between these two games, because I'm looking at all the numbers in front of me, I'm not going to go over each individual player, what they did this season, but the biggest one that stands out to me, and I'm not super worried, but it is something to monitor. Josh Byrne has only scored 3 goals in those 2 games, and he took 25 shots. 3 of 25 is not typical Josh Byrne fashion. I'm not saying that Nick Rose has Josh Byrne's number, but he is one of the few that has struggled to put the ball back behind Nick Rose this year. I mean, Frazier, 6 of 17. Smith, 5 of 19. McKay, 4 of 4. It's a small point that I'm going to point out here is Josh Byrne, 3 of 25 versus Nick Rose this year. Again, small sample size was just 2, and he's had phenomenal games in the past 12, or the past 10 before these last 2 against the Toronto Rock. And you saw what he did in the championship versus the Rock last year. So definitely just a quick statistic to toss out there, because I think I would be wrong if I didn't. But Phil, before we dive into the numbers, let's go over sponsor number 2 of the show, Mr. Sizzles.
I scrolled down. I should have scrolled up. Mr. Sizzles at 346 Connecticut Street in Buffalo, New York. They have 2 new locations opening up pretty soon. One in Clarence, one in Hamburg. They are currently open 7 days a week, 11 to 11, with a brunch menu on Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3. And with the nice weather, I believe they have also opened up their version of the patio, and they have some outdoor seating to go along with the beautiful weather outside.
And you know what pairs well with outdoor nice weather? Eating food?
I think I do.
A brand new stinking menu is now officially out and live.
It doesn't stink.
It does not stink. It's a stinking good.
There you go.
New menu. But what we saw when they sent us the teaser of what was going to be released, we told you and we warned you how good these new menu items were going to be. So I picked a little bit of an entree, a main meal, and I paired it with something. So Phil, let me know how this goes. I got the hot honey mac and cheese, spiral noodles with homemade cheese sauce, hot honey and crispy bacon. That's my
You're
entree.
already starting
My
strong.
main meal is going to be a ham solo. It's sizzled, roasted, fried bologna with American cheese, sauteed onions, sizzle sauce, and mayo. And then I'm going to pair that with a little bit of a Loganberry float. Phil, how does it sound with my new entree and my new main dish?
It sounds like you're going to have to be rolled out of the restaurant. I don't know if you're moving.
Well, if I'm already sitting on the patio, you don't have
Then
to
you're
roll me
good.
through the door.
Yeah,
I'm
someone
already
can
there.
someone can pull up for you and roll you into the car. There you go.
Just get the forklift. Forklift me right in.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I think we will continue to go over and describe some of their other new menu items because they had a lot that they added. Some are just really, really incredible. There's one in particular that I can mention on the next episode that I'm really looking forward to. But I think PK, you did a great job with the all new menu items. And honestly, the Loganberry float also sounds really delicious, especially during the warm weather.
So stay tuned. Phil and I are going to switch roles. He's going to pair something on next episode. And then you can let us know which one you actually like better, mine or his. So check out their new menu on all their socials or at MrSizzles.com. Let's go over the numbers now. Toronto, third in the league in goal scoring in the regular season, 12.11, 9 in round one. Buffalo came in first, 13.17, 10 in round one, the highest scoring team then. In goals against, Toronto, number one, 9.39, 6 in the first round. Buffalo coming in at 10th in the regular season, 11.78. They allowed 9 in round one. But Phil, really, it's going to be very difficult to really grasp. And I know last year we were kind of thinking, hey, is game one going to be this big time explosion? And I believe we both picked it, yes. And then game two was going to kind of dial down and both teams are going to know each other. And that's kind of what it was in 21-22, I believe it was, where it was this big explosion where it was like 18-17 or something like that in round one. And Buffalo just blew the doors off. But Toronto has a great offense and an unbelievable defense. It's going to be a battle in Hamilton on Friday and Banditland on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it goes to, and we say this every single episode, which is annoying, but it's all about the start of the game, right? I mean, it's really going to be, I mean, if you looked at exactly what you mentioned earlier with the Rochester game, they only lost 9-6, not brutal. A lot of their goals came in the second half after they finally got going, but a big portion of that loss was allowing 4 goals on 5 shots to start the game. You can't do that. That puts you, especially against a team like Toronto, puts you in such a massive deficit, and it's very, very difficult to catch up to a team like Toronto. So, yes, Buffalo has done an incredible job against them this year. Oddly, I don't really understand it because Toronto is supposed to be a really good fourth quarter team, and both times the Bandits have really climbed back into the game in the fourth quarter. So, I think if the Bandits can find a way to start a little bit better than they have this year against Toronto, because they have struggled-ish in the first 3 quarters and then had to storm back and have incredible fourth quarters out of nowhere to take the game. If they can start just a little bit stronger and not do what Rochester did and allow 4 goals in the first 5 shots, which I don't think they will, but still, it's just the point of you really got to stay with them for the first half. You don't have to be winning by a bunch. You don't have to be, even tied, or you can be losing even by a couple, but make sure they do not get away from you, because catching up against a team like this is not easy. Rochester found that out the very hard way. I mean, Toronto only scored 9 goals. It's not like they destroyed Hartley or did anything really bad, especially after scoring 4 on the first 5. They only got 5 goals the entire game for the rest of it. So they really, their offense wasn't amazing in that first playoff game, but their defense was amazing and only allowed 6 goals the whole time. So you just cannot let them get really far away from you, because they are very difficult to catch up to.
Yeah, and like we said on the last show, it might be a good thing that Buffalo is starting on the road in this one, because it's a jacked up matchup. If you go behind Banditland, you might be too amped up and take those early penalties like they did in the Georgia game, where it didn't come back to haunt them at all. But being on the road, and I know Banditland travels well, don't get me wrong and don't hear what I'm not saying, but it's a little bit different between being behind 17, 18, 19,000 fans that are cheering for you, and in Hamilton where they max out at what, like 10,000, and like 7,000 of them are there for Toronto. It's a bit different. So I think them being on the road to start this massive matchup against your big time hated rival, I think that might help them stay out of the box early. And that's another big key. Stay out of the stinking box. Do not go in the box, because Toronto can kill you on the power play. And these are the players that can. Forwards with the lefties, Dan Craig, Mark Matthews got 29 points on the power play. Corey Small, he's got 21 on the power play. For the righties, Chris Boucher's got 16 on the power play. Josh Dowick, he is a young up-and-coming player, kind of took over that Zach Mann's role this year. Dan Lintner, he is another young a player that's depth piece that can pump in the goals. And then Tom Schreiber, 1 goal, 20 assists, 21 points on the power play. This team has the goal scorers, and from last year, you kind of just upgraded. You added Mark Matthews to this. You added Chris Boucher. You added Dan Lintner. You brought back Corey Small. You got healthy Tom Schreiber. This offense is very, very scary, and Buffalo's defense has finally come into their own the last 3 games. I think this is their best test in the long run here that they've been going on, to see if that defense transitions and what this addition of Paul Dawson to that explosive defense has done against a high-powered offense like Toronto.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see this. I mean, the earlier games that they played, I believe Rogers was out for both. I know
he was out for game 2, I believe. Yeah, just game 2. He was there for game 1.
But even still, I mean, I know we're not quite at Rogers yet, but the point of just these teams, yes, they already played each other twice this year, which is more than most of the league that you're playing, because you only play a few teams 2 times, but they really don't know each other all that well. I mean, the defense for the Bandits has gotten much, much healthier and has completely changed, in my opinion, from the beginning half of the season. I think the way they've been playing the last few weeks, and especially with the way Vince has really stepped up in the last few weeks, I think what Toronto saw earlier in the year, I don't think is the same defense they're about to run into. And it's not just like the fact that Vince is playing well, but the entire team, and I keep mentioning it in my articles and even on here, that they just look smothering. Like the way they're finally attacking players very aggressively, they're constantly in their face, they're switching off much better. Yes, there's still occasionally, the time where they switch off a little slow, and that's often when the goals go in, but that'll happen at certain points, no matter how good your defense is. But I think for the most part, they're playing very in-your-face defense, and they're doing a really good job of playing that smart and not, switching off too much to cover the down low guy and leave someone else wide open. They're doing a much, much better job the last few weeks of just being very smothering, where you just see them just constantly in every single player on the field's face, and they just do not give them a lot of room to do much of anything. And when they do have room, the defense is right there to either block a shot, block a pass, do whatever. So this defense is just very different. I understand that Toronto's offense is also different from last year, and Mark Matthews had a monster season. I mean, anytime a offense is decent and you add 98 points to that, plus 29 on the power play, that is a massive, massive addition to a team. So it's not like the Bandits are going to be able to shut them down and get 0, but I do think that this defense is much closer to what we saw in pretty much the entirety of last year that led the team than what we saw earlier in the year when these two teams faced off originally.
So we don't have to go over all the defensemen and all their numbers because they're household names at this point. Jalen Rogers, like we said, was out game 2. He's a threat in the transition game. You got Mitch Desnew, who's also a threat in the transition game, but he's going to be up for Defender of the Year once again. Justin Martin, he's going to be up for Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. He's had a phenomenal year, and for some reason, I can't remember who cut him, but he was a free agent. Toronto was like, yeah, let's take him. Phil Mazuka's out there. Brad Cree, he should also be up for transition or Defender of the Year. Chris Wire, Billy Haustrauser, Josh Jubinville, Chris Corbeil. TD Erlin was out in game 1. I apologize, out game 1. So that face-off matchup between him and Connor Farrell is going to be a very interesting one as well. But, they're just loaded on the back end. It's going to be a bruising game. Buffalo's going to have to drive back home or fly back home with plenty of bruises and some ice packs, because this defense is just so intimidating and so rough and tumble back there. But, I always say it that Buffalo's got to get to the net and make Nick Rose move. But they've proven that they have Nick Rose's number. As long as that continues, this defense, you just got to pretty much make them run ragged. And if you're able to pinpoint those shots against Nick Rose, who doesn't really move, you're going to take less of a beating against this team because you're going to be able to shoot from distance and get the balls by Nick Rose.
Yeah, I'm going to side note to offense-ish, but Rodgers led the team last week with 5 points, 2 goals, 3 assists. He is one that you have to keep an eye on for transition. He's also just been playing a lot more offensive shifts in general, so he's a little bit scary. I know he only had 29 points in 12 games, which honestly is weird to me, seeing that he had 5 points in the one playoff game, but I think he's
Remember, he only played in 12 games.
Right.
He missed 6.
Still thought it would have been higher in general. It just seems like he's someone who is constantly playing offense and does a really good job of there, so a player to watch. But everything you mentioned about the defense for them and the offense for the Bandits, I think this is a massive Nanakoke game, a massive Brandon Robinson game, Cloutier, all the bruisers out there that are for the Bandits, that make room for Josh Byrne and Dane Smith and those kind of players. They are the ones that are going to have to lead the charge in this game. What we saw in the first half of that Georgia game last week cannot happen against a team like Toronto. You cannot just sit back, throw the ball around the perimeter, and then, kind of eat the shot clock up and take a panicked last second shot. You have to really fight your way in. I think pick and rolls are going to be big, even though they seem to not like to do them. But I think just elite passing, like we've seen from the Bandits offense in the past, where they are just one step ahead of the defense. And then again, players like Robinson and Nanakoke just willing to go to the dirty area, fighting your way through to make those lanes available for the other players or even get a goal themselves. I mean, we saw Robinson with a few big pick and roll opportunities last game. He didn't score on them, but we know he has the ability to do so. And he's kind of the sneaky kind of player that you might need in a game like this. If it's going to be close, you need a player like that to step up and, get a couple of those kind of pick and roll, dirty type goals that he might not have done a ton over the year, but we know he can do it. And then Nanakoke, same thing, just using his bulldozer type style to get through a defense like this and just find a way inside. It's going to be a big area to score. But like you mentioned, until Toronto proves and Nick Rose proves that they can stop this Bandits offense, I am trying not to worry too much about it because the Bandits offense just seems to have Toronto's number for some reason. And until we see otherwise, we're just going to kind of keep letting them roll.
So in net, obviously, the Triple Crown winner, Nick Rose, which fits perfectly with the Kentucky Derby going on. 15-2, 9.18 goals against, and an 81 save percentage. But those 2 losses and that inflated, quote unquote, inflated goals against average is due to the Buffalo Bandits. His 2 losses came against the Buffalo Bandits. So, like we said multiple times, Buffalo has shown that they have Nick Rose's number. Does Nick Rose have the ability to make that adjustment that we have seen him make in years prior and be able to control this defense? You can't shut this offense down for the Buffalo Bandits. You can only hope to contain them. If they can keep Buffalo right around that 10-11 mark, I think Toronto has a great chance. But if Buffalo is able to put up 12, 13, 14 goals, I think it's theirs to win.
So I'm trying to do some quick math. I think my math is wrong a little bit because I think there's some empty net goals tossed in there. But if you take out the 2 Bandits games and also subtract 2 games played, his goals against average is a little bit closer to 9 even. It's 9.06. So those slightly inflated games, but
that's what I said. Slightly inflated.
Slightly inflated because of the Bandits. But yeah, I mean, as long as the Bandits continue to do what they've done, and I don't know, again, it's a very kind of weird thing to me that a team can kind of have someone's number this well over the amount of games they've played against this team. These 2 teams can't really throw much different at each other. They know each other insanely well. Like you've mentioned, how many times they've seen each other over just the handful of years that we've been covering them. It's just, they've seen each other way, way, way more than any 2 teams should in the NLL. But I mean, to continue to come up with just massive offensive game after massive offensive game. I mean, Nick Rose is an elite goalie, but the Bandits know what he is. They know the style he plays. They know each other extremely well, and they know how to beat him, and they've proven it time and time again. So until Nick Rose has that kind of shut down, really impressive game against the Bandits, and even this year, it looks like he has until the 4th quarter when the Bandits have just all of a sudden opened it up and poured it on. I think that's going to be a big thing to watch this game is that Nick Rose and the Toronto defense has done a good job against the Bandits for 3 quarters twice. And then the Bandits all of a sudden have taken off and just really come alive in the fourth quarter. So it'll be interesting to see if the Bandits can turn it on a little bit earlier or if Toronto can actually finally shut down the Bandits in the fourth quarter.
So, Phil, we went over the numbers, the players, the history, everything. Phil, what's your prediction for game 1, just game 1 in Toronto?
Yeah, law of averages still scares me. But I think the last game against Georgia was a bit of a wake-up call for the Bandits after kind of cruising to some very fluffy victories at the end of the season that they had. But I think they are locked in now. I think the defense is locked in. I think the offense can step it up. I'm still going to give them the victory because until Toronto can prove otherwise, I really don't understand how the Bandits are just demolishing a team that is this good, but I will continue to take them until they do not. So I'm going to go with a victory, and I'm going to go 12-10. I think it'll be close, but I do think the big difference between these two teams is I just think the Bandits offense is much more elite and still is a little bit better than I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this comparison. So the Bandits defense, I think, is closer to Toronto's defense, where the Bandits offense, I think, is farther away and more talented than Toronto's offense. I think the difference between the defenses, especially with the way the Bandits have been playing more recently, is closer than the Toronto offense is to the Bandits' elite offense. So I'm still going to give them the edge, and I think they can take a 12-10 victory.
Homer. I have Buffalo losing game 1.
How many have they won straight?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I have, yeah, it's 4 in a row. Yes, I get that. And they were all big time wins. I have Buffalo losing in Toronto 13-11 in game 1. Come at me. I don't care. Phil, game 2 in Banditland. You already have them winning game 1. Are they going for the clean sweep, or will we be back in Hamilton for game 3 next weekend?
Well, we've gotten back-to-back seasons of clean sweeps of Toronto, and unlike last year, which is also a very weird change for us Bandits fans who have been number 1 in the regular season for a long time now and have had home field advantage for multiple years, I think they can close it out in Banditland at home. I'm going to go probably close again because, like we said last time, I think the second game, you're just playing a double weekend. You're a little bit more exhausted. I know playoffs are intense, but it's still exhausting. So I'm going to keep it close, but I'm going to go 13-10 in that one. Bandits get back to their average goals a game.
Yeah, last year they won 17-8 in game 2.
I remember saying all of this again last year, and I was like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, I am not having Toronto win this series as a sweep. I have Buffalo winning this one 12-10 in Banditland to extend the series into game 3. I said it in my article. This is more just a selfish reason. I just want to see these two teams for once play 3 games and see what happens in game 3. I still would like Buffalo to come out on top, but to see these two teams match up 3 straight times, like 3 times in, 8 days, it would be unbelievable for the sport and unbelievable for this league if this series went the distance, with Buffalo coming on top, obviously, but I have the home teams winning this one, 12-10 in Banditland.
This is how you know unified standings aren't scripted, because if they were, it would have the championship between Toronto and Buffalo like we were hoping 100%. Would happen with the unified standings. But once again, we are pretty much just at a East Conference final, 3 straight years between the same 2 teams, which I love because they don't like each other, but would have been one heck of a final for a starting year for the unified standings. But it's not scripted, so here we are.
So we're already over the hour mark that we like to keep it at. So this is going to be the fastest milestone minute.
It's like
remember they're playing twice. So there's a lot of numbers here that could possibly, it's already long to begin with. And then you got to throw in a second game till our next show. So a lot of these could happen. All these milestones can be found on X at Buffalo Sports Co. We post them in the lead up to each and every game. If you miss one and don't want to listen back, you can check for them there. Away we go. If Steve Priolo plays on Friday and Sunday, we'll move into 10th place in NLL history in games played in the playoffs. Dane Smith is 2 goals away from tying Mike Kersey for 8th place in NLL playoff history. He averages 2.16 a game. He is 3 away from tying Dan Dawson for 7th, 4 away from tying John Grant Jr. for 6th, 5 away from tying Colin Doyle for 5th, and 8 away from tying Curtis Dixon for 4th place. Mind you, Dixon is still playing, so keep an eye on that. Steve Priolo is 1 cost turnover away from tying Robert Hope and Zach Currier for 3rd place in NLL playoff history. He averages 1.07 a game. Dane Smith is 2 assists away from tying Dan Dawson for 2nd place in NLL playoff history. He averages 4 a game. He's 12 away from tying John Tavares for 1st place in NLL playoff history. He is 5 points away from tying Dan Dawson for 3rd place in NLL playoff history. He averages 6.16 a game, and he's 9 away from tying Dane Doby for 2nd place in NLL playoff history. Mind you, again, Doby is still playing. Steve Priolo is 6 loose balls away from tying Brody Merrill for 3rd place in NLL playoff history. He averages 7.68. As we learned the last show, Brody Merrill's pretty good at picking up loose balls. He is still playing as well. Josh Byrne is 13 points away from 100 for his playoff career. He averages 5.8 a game. Kyle Buchanan, 4 loose balls away from 100 for his playoff career. He averages 4.8 a game. Steve Priolo plays both games this weekend. He will pass Mark Stainhouse for 2nd place in Buffalo Bandits playoff history. Chris Cloutier is 4 goals away from tying Mike Kersey for 5th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 1.73 a game. Chase Frazier, 1 goal away from tying Darius Kilgore for 7th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 1.3 a game. Tehoka Nanticoke, 1 goal away from tying Darius Kilgore for 7th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 1.69 a game. Chris Cloutier, 1 assist away from tying Darius Kilgore for 5th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 2.07 a game. Josh Byrne, 2 points away from tying Mark Stainhouse for 3rd place in Buffalo Bandits history. Tehoka Nanticoke, 5 points away from tying Ryan Benesh for 8th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 3.8 a game. Kyle Buchanan is 1 point away from tying Rich Kilgore for 10th place in Buffalo Bandits history. Nick Weiss, 15 loose balls away from tying Jim Veltman and Pat McCready for 4th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 4.91 a game. Ian McKay is 2 loose balls away from tying Jay Thurnberg for 7th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 6.56 a game. Dane Smith, 5 loose balls away from tying Jay Thurnberg for 7th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 3.92 a game. Connor Farrell, just 2 more here, 30 faceoffs away from tying Phil Sanderson for 10th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He's 35 away from tying Randy Frazier for 9th place and 46 away from tying Jason Crosby for 8th. If he wins 15 faceoffs, he will tie Randy Frazier for 10th place in Buffalo Bandits playoff history. He's 17 away from tying Jason Crosby for 9th, 20 away from tying Chase Frazier for 8th, and 24 away from tying Kevin Alexander for 7th place. It's unbelievable how bad Buffalo has been in faceoffs in their playoff history because Connor Farrell, 1 game in, and he can already get in the top 10.
It is. And the fact that Chase Frazier's 8th on that list.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about it a lot pretty much every time that you need a lot of playoff games in order to get a lot of these, get close to some of these records. And you also have to be really good. But the fact that Dane is just, that high and 9 away from tying Dane Doby, who is over 40, I think, maybe, and still
no, he's mid to 30s? Late 30s.
Still playing though, and I mean, just the years apart that they are. I'll just put it that way. Like there's so many years apart in age and seasons, and he's still just on. He's
37.
Yeah, and Dane's 31, 32,
gonna be 32 in May.
So 5 years away, 5 seasons away, and 9 points away. Pretty incredible. And again, it helps when you play a ton of playoff lacrosse. But I think Doby has also played a ton of playoff lacrosse in his career as well. That's why they're both up there. And Mark Stainhouse, we heard, a potential retirement, and haven't seen it yet. So hopefully that materializes at some point because he's still really, really good.
Yeah, would love to see his jersey in the rafters next to that new jumbo scoreboard Tron thing. So,
maybe that's what he's waiting for. He's like, I heard there's a new scoreboard coming in. I'm gonna wait for that.
New roof so he doesn't get rained on as well. But Phil, we did this last week as well. We're really ticking over here because of the BSC Awards show. You know how those always go long. But Phil, 30 seconds. Game 1, Albany in San Diego, Friday at 10:30. What's your prediction for that one?
I don't really know what to expect from that series. I didn't really expect Albany to demolish Halifax the way they did. Jameson played absolutely incredible, and Halifax was ridiculously embarrassing. So this game, I mean, Albany's just been a surprise team the entire season, right? So they kind of crashed toward the end of the year, and now they're starting to pick it back up and then just dismantled Halifax like it was nothing. So really interested to see how that series go. And honestly, for a prediction, I have no idea. I still think San Diego is the more complete, better team, but Albany is shocking the NLL world to even get to where they are right now. And again, just how they beat Halifax was really impressive. So I'm still going to give it to San Diego, I think, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than it seems. I'm going to go 11-9. Keep it tight.
I like it. I have San Diego winning game 1, 12-8. Phil, Sunday, right before Bandits kickoff, 3 p.m., San Diego in Albany this time. Are you going for the sweep and possibly the final start next weekend because you had Buffalo sweeping it? Or are they going to game 3 and giving Buffalo a bye in your predictions here?
I don't know if I like Buffalo with a bye if my predictions all come true.
They had it last year and won it all.
That is true. I am going to give them the bye. I think the young guns of Albany, I think they're kind of raring up and ready to go for a big back-to-back weekend. I think San Diego is a little bit more of a aging team that is trying to put it all on the line to finally get themselves a title. Brody Merrill coming out of retirement. But I think Albany can take the game 2. I'm going to let them score a little bit, and I'm going to go 12-9. Jameson having a good game as well.
Yeah, I got 11-9 Albany, so I have them going to game 3 as well. All home teams win it in my predictions. Phil, that closes out this episode. Is there anything else you would like to add to it before we shut it down and get ready for a very nerve-wracking, heart-pounding bloodbath of a weekend for the NLL action?
Yeah, I'm very, very nervous, very excited. Happy the Bandits escaped a absolutely terrifying overtime victory for the first time since 1992 in playoffs, but really excited. Cannot wait to watch the game tonight, Friday. Really scared though, and I'm going to have to constantly remind myself, no matter what the score is, that the Bandits have done really well against Toronto in the fourth quarter, and just kind of have my eyes looking on that and hope they can either put a game away or catch up if they need to.
Yeah. On our next show, whether they get swept, sweep, or it's tied 1-1, we will be back to break that down. We'll talk about the Albany-San Diego matchups as well, because if Buffalo makes it to the finals, one of those two teams will meet the defending champions. But good luck to everybody out there and their blood pressure. Make sure that if you're on medication, you stock up on those, because that's what I'm going to have to do. I know,
no salt for you.
I know, I know way too much about that. No salt for me, especially because of these nerve-wracking times. But again, reminder, our Monday episode is pushed to Tuesday because of the late Sunday game. So do not look for us on Monday. We will not be there. We will be back on Tuesday. So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room and Mr. Sizzles for sponsoring this episode and this show. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article dropped on Tuesday. Mine dropped on Thursday. Check for them there. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you leave us that 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.